Tom, thank you very much for that fantastic presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, again, I want to thank Van, Joe, and Tom. And we are now going to turn our presentation over to our president, Corrado Gugliotta. And remember, we will have a live question and answer in the Q&A. Mr. President, over to you.
Thank you, Danny. And what an incredible morning it was. Thank you again to Van, to Joe, and to Tom for sharing their insights on a great, incredible presentation this morning. So without any further ado, I'm going to start asking questions. Again, if you have questions, please put them down in the Q&A or in the chat box, and I'll be monitoring them. So the first question, actually the first two questions, come from Anna. When is the best time to take Social Security if you're a single person? I don't know who wants to take that out of the three speakers, but that's the first question.
I'll take a shot at it. If you're single, see, if you're married, what I say is the lower earning spouse can claim early, the higher earning spouse should delay. But if you're single, in most cases, you should delay as long as possible, because you don't have that survivor benefit. You don't have a spousal benefit. It's really just your benefit. So, you know, in general, again, there's always exceptions due to medical situations or whatever. But in general, I believe a single person should wait as long as possible. And that single person needs to have long-term care insurance as well. And I'm sure Van and Joe might want to chime in.
No,
I agree.
I agree also.
Great. Our next question, and from Anna. So I think this would be more for you, Tom, or anybody. Is there a guarantee on a variable annuity without adding the protection rider?
Well, I mean, you got to look at the contract of the variable annuity, but normally the living benefit, normally there's a death benefit guarantee that comes part of a variable annuity that you don't have to, you know, buy any extra rider. But to have a cash value guarantee, or, you know, there's some that have a cash value guarantee, there's some that have a withdrawal benefit guarantee, there's some that have an income benefit guarantee. Those are almost always add-on riders. There may be some exceptions out there, but normally they're an additional rider, because, you know, it's just like a car. If you don't care if you have leather seats or cloth seats or a high-powered stereo or not, with your car, you can adjust it to fit your needs. It's the same with now insurance products and annuities. You can dial it in to fit exactly what you want. And Joe, since Joe developed variable annuities, he probably has some great insight here as well.
Yeah,
No, I would agree with that. I mean, you know, the benefit of the VA is the fact that you have an income balance and a account balance, and you know, you still have the idea. So there's a guarantee right there that the income balance is totally unaffected by the account balance. And I know some annuities that they have like a 60% equity participation, and you know what? There's no chance in hell that account balance will ever get in front of an income balance. So just that fundamental aspect in terms of, and so that's with the rider, of course, but you have that. And then, as Tom said, you have, without additional fees, you know, death benefits. You can enhance those death benefits too. But he's exactly right. Everyone focuses in on fees, excuse me. And you know what? The fact of the matter is a well-timed intervention can be worth a decade's worth of fees. I mean, we recently went through, I talked about it in my slideshow, the 3 near bear markets that we had. And so I'm talking about fees in general now, not necessarily embedded in a product. Everyone says it's like a math problem, the fees. And if you had stayed in this and paid half of what you paid, you'd have that much more. You wouldn't be there because someone would bail out and freak out. It's behavioral management. So there's an obsession about fees instead of, and you know, value. Value is not something that's driven just by fees. And when you understand the value, you can understand why you would pay the fee.
Thank you, Joe. Tom, another question for you. It says here, 10 pay whole life or universal life with a question mark. I don't know what.
Look, you got to sell the flavor that you sell. Like I'm personally a believer in whole life. It's been through all the ups and downs for generations, and it's solid. You know, variable life, quite frankly, probably has outperformed whole life. In fact, I know it has for the past 30 years. And index life is all the rage now. and I'm not saying anything bad about either one of those products. I was the national VUL guy for MetLife. So I'm a big believer in all life insurance. I just want people to have life insurance. And normally you can get a 10 pay. You probably can't on variable because it goes up and down, but there's probably 10 pay on IUL, and I know there's 10 pay on whole life. And so I would stick to just showing at least an accelerated pay product, because I'm telling you, most of your clients don't know it even exists.
Great.
And Van does a lot of life insurance. Van probably has some insights on.
Yeah, Van, why
10 pay
don't
or
you chime
whatever.
in on that one?
Well, agents come up to me eyes after we're done with these talks. And they say, well, what's your favorite? Whole life, index, universal life, variable life? And I go, yes. I coined a phrase called cash value life insurance, because I don't think the world understands our cliche words. And so cash value life insurance describes it really well. If I could, I'd like to throw something in, because it's very important, and I'm very lucky to be on a talk with Tom and Joe. Everybody looks at my career. I had 16 years where I was a failure. I was such a bad insurance agent. I'm pretty sure there's compliance now because of me. And then I have 30 years of top of the table production, and I'm having my best years during the pandemic. As soon as we're done here today, I have 5 in-person appointments. Here's where I want to go. If your listeners get anything from what Joe and Tom, and hopefully what they got from me, is that these are learned skills. It's not about having a gift of gab or being charming or being young or old or man or woman or black or Italian or Hispanic or Asian. It's about, are you willing to learn to ask the questions in a conversational way, so it sounds like you're having a great conversation with somebody? And professionals practice. If you get anything out of our time together this morning, professionals practice. Now, if you guys don't think that I haven't heard Tom Hegna 100 times, you're wrong. If you don't think I've heard Joe Jordan 100 times, you're wrong. And yet I got on this morning and watched both of them give their talk, because every time I listen to them, I learn another turn of a phrase, or I learn another great idea that I can use. And then when I'm done, I practice it. And I practice it so that it's mine. That's conversationally mine. And I never forget how to have that conversation with people. And so, please, these are the greats of the industry. Joe teaches you how to take and become not only successful, but how to be significant. And Tom Hegna, in my opinion, is the savior of the industry, because he's teaching us about guaranteed income that you cannot outlive. And my God, mortality credits in a zero interest rate environment. If you could see all the sales I make every day, I want to say this to him publicly. He makes me a lot of money. I'm not going to give him any of it, but he makes me a lot of money. And so these are the ideas that will help us to lead the American people out of a real terrible mess, because the government, Wall Street, and the banks do not have our backs any longer. And that's okay, because it's America. And in America, you can make a decision to take control of your own financial future.
Let me see if we have any more questions in the Q&A. If not, I'll. So Tom, since Joe just stepped away for a second, looks like here, what words of wisdom can you give or share with the group? It's year end. Here we are. It's the final crunch. What advice? What can you share with the group to have a strong year end close?
Van said he was having his best year ever. I'm by far having my best year ever. I'll bet Joe's having his best year ever. And so why? I think it's adaptability. See, the best producers are adaptable. Things changed. I mean, my world changed overnight. I'm a speaker at live events, and now live events went away. Well, now I'm doing it virtually. My question is, how have you adapted? Like, you know, maybe you only saw 1 or 2 people face to face every day. Well, now you can see 7 or 8 or 10 people face to face every day via Zoom. Are you doing that? Are you doing webinars? Are you using technology? If you're not using technology, you're probably having the worst year you've ever had. And there's no reason to do that. This is very simple technology. Everybody can do it. And I just say you got to adapt, and you've got to increase your activity. Do an annual review with every single person in your book of business. There's no reason not to now. It's so easy. You don't have to drive across town to that person who has no money. You can do a 15-minute annual review. And guess what? They just won the lottery. Their parents just passed away. They just got a big inheritance. I'm telling you, this stuff happens every single day. It's activity, activity, activity. See the people, see the people, see the people. You know, Joe, I wouldn't be here without Joe Jordan. He's in every one of my books. Joe is one of my mentors. Joe has helped me not only when I was a brand new agent, I would drive many miles just to watch Joe Jordan. And he was the annuity guy. He taught me a lot about annuities. I learned from the Kinder brothers. I've learned from Van. I've learned from all these people. Like, you don't get to be one of the top people in an industry by yourself. You got to use these top people like Joe and you know, Jack and Gary Kinder when they were alive, or, you know, I mean, when Jack was alive, and Gary, I mean, awesome people. So anyway, that's what I would tell you. Adapt, do things a little differently.
Well, thanks, Tom and Van, for those comments. But one of the things I want to add in is the fact that the realization I had, you have to understand something. I'm 69 years old, and I never did a webinar in my life, for Christ's sake, okay? And then this thing hit. So I don't think this thing is happening to us. I think it's happening for us. I would have never made all of these changes that I've made. I've done about 60 of them now, if that didn't happen. And it's really the attitude that you have with it to get you to begin to think that way. So I just think that's something that's very crucial. And, you know, change is sometimes scary and what have you, but yeah, you know, you just do it now, right? Me, because I'm going to continue. I now have this opportunity to be able to not have to worry about getting to Dallas because I'm in Denver, and I can do that much more. So, you know, now is the time to really adapt. Look, adoption is the new innovation. You don't have to innovate anything. You just have to adopt. Imagine if this stuff happened 3 years ago. Now think about it, okay? Think about all of the stuff you have to apply for, or what have you, and those poor people who were saying, we need to do Atlas and everything, and you're like pushing them out the door. This happened for a reason. And right now it's just going to expand that. So that's why you should have a positive attitude. On top of that, as I said, for the first time, you've got demand. People know people are dying. So turn it around in your head. And the last thing I'd want to say is adopt this gratitude thing I was talking about. I started doing it, and I got to tell you, the people react. You want to get the cobwebs out of your head, but you know what you got to do? Write down the next 6 weeks who you're going to call up, and just don't wait till Friday to do it. And you just can't believe the impact you have. You're going to hit 52 people in a year, 520 in a decade, like we just last year ended. And it's just one of the things that keeps you positive. So don't go to the negative side of the thing. Go towards the positive side. This has been a great, well, it's not a great, you know what I'm talking about. And I'm not trying, I used to do this thing, don't waste this crisis. And everyone thought I was, you know, being morbid and taking advantage of people. It's not that. It's the idea that you can adapt and help more people. And that was, you know, something that people didn't get. But that's really my thoughts.
Great, thanks, Joe. So it looks like we have several questions now coming in. We're going to open up. We have a question from Bruce Porter. I believe they're going to open up his mic. Bruce? Bruce, your mic is now open. You have to unmute yourself, Bruce. Okay, we'll move on. We'll come back to Bruce. We have another question from Michael DiVizio. If you started your career during the pandemic, knowing what you know now, what would be the top 3 things you would focus on daily?
I'll take it. I did a whole webinar on how to thrive. Number one, your attitude. Just like Joe said, you got to have a positive attitude. If it's to be, it's up to me. It's not up to your manager. It's not up to your company. It's up to you. Take that attitude. Number two, this is a time for professional development. You got time to get your designations. You got time to read, study, learn all the things Van was saying, learn from the masters. This is your time to do it. And number three is activity. You've got to increase your activity, not decrease it. See more people, and you can via Zoom or FaceTime or Skype or however you do it. Doesn't matter. Just do it and increase your activity. Those would be the things: attitude, professional development, and activity.
I'd like to jump in if I could.
Sure, Van.
I think the biggest problem with our industry, again, is that agents don't have enough appointments. So the first thing I would do is I would develop a set of 10, 12, 15 questions that I would know dead bang, the way I know my favorite football team or my favorite basketball team. And I would know them where I could say I'm sitting next to somebody in a restaurant or calling them on the phone. I made 3 sales last week on the phone, one in Colorado, one in Arizona, one in I can't even think of the other state. And I did 3 or 4 on Zoom, but I'm still seeing people in person. And I wear a mask when I come up to the door. I wear a mask inside the house, and they seem to be comfortable with it. I do the protocols. And so the key that I want to make sure for an agent who says, if I'm starting during the pandemic, and to be honest with you, that's every agent in America right now. They're all starting in the pandemic. What you do is you learn a set of questions that inspire people to take action. You do not sell life insurance or annuities or mutual funds or long-term care or critical illness insurance. Your job is to get people to understand that there is no bad news, there is no good news, there is only news. And how you react to that news either builds you success because you have a plan or builds you failure because you failed to plan. And so what we show people is that this is the opportunity of a lifetime, not a stressful time. And all they have to do is develop a plan and they'll be able to take care of it. That's what new agents need to learn. You don't need to know all about the product. What you need to do is learn some questions like, what's the best age to take your Social Security? What if you could be the beneficiary of your own life insurance policy while you were still alive? Here's another one. Is there somebody at the Internal Revenue Service that you're just so madly in love with that you've decided to leave them all of your money? And why did you decide that you wanted to leave a legacy for the Internal Revenue Service rather than your family and your business? If you learn 10 or 12 of those questions, those inspire conversations. And that's how everybody in our business could increase their appointments dramatically, because now they're having a conversation about what our products do rather than what they are. And that's what Tom teaches. That's what Joe teaches. That's what David McKnight teaches. That's what all of the greats that we aspire to be like teach us. And that's what you need, is a set of powerful questions, powerful stories that you can inspire people to take action with.
I think Van is right. Remember what I said. I said, you know, the business is built on 2 principles: prospecting and everything else. You know, I mean, here's the thing. Okay, you're going to learn by doing, not do by learning. Okay, and so the fact of the matter, this is a doing business. And that's why I like the idea of this daily contact. When I first got into business, 1974, that's what he made me do. And you manage to effort and not results. Every meeting you go to, everyone assumes you're in front of somebody. That's the world you live in. That's your, you know, that's the thing that you got to deal with all of the time. And so one of the things, this is something I like, a daily contact commitment, that there's X number of people that I have to get in touch with and figure out a way to do it. I do it now. I'm dialing and smiling just like everyone else here. And so, you know, I do stuff on LinkedIn and someone comments, hey, you know, boom. But I always have a commitment that there's X number of people that I'm going to be trying to contact in some form of fashion. And I like daily because, look, I know. So I'll make my calls on Wednesday. Oh, well, there's a baseball game at night and this is over here and I'm a little tired. I'll do it tomorrow, okay? There's a technical term for it. It's called farting around, all right? And so the number one thing is prospecting, whether it's on the phone, whether it's through the computer or walking down the street or what have you. And and I found, I mean, I told a story once where there was an agent who knew a guy and knew a family, and unfortunately there was a plane crash and the husband died. He said, I never went to the guy because it was always the wrong time. You know what I mean? I don't know. Their friends, his daughters were friends, and they didn't want to bring them together. And you know, my people. And you know what? If he had a goal that I'm going to ask X number of people a day, it might have been the thing that did it. Might have been the thing that got him in front of, you know, to buy some even term insurance, right? Would have, you know, kept the people in the house. So I think that's the idea. I think, you know, Van is actually absolutely right. Is the idea that activity is the first thing that you do. You have to do the study. You can do the other thing to gain the confidence, but getting in front of people is really crucial.
Thank you, Joe, for that. And I do remember that, Joe, back in our MetLife days. That's what you instilled in us. PCC,
Right.
5 a day, 5 a day.
That's right. Doesn't change.
It doesn't change. So here's another question from Richard Roman. Do any of you use or subscribe to wealth building cornerstones?
I don't do any personal production, so I don't, but I know the system, and I think it supports a lot of what I talk about. So I don't have any problems with it. I'm not in personal production.
Got it. Okay. Next question coming from George Riley. What keeps all of you motivated after so many years of success?
If please, I won't take long to answer this. I got a second chance. I really threw away the first 16 years of my career, and I got a second chance to matter. As I've gotten older, I'll be very candid. I don't have a clue what any of the commissions are that I earn. I just love doing what I do every day. I get to get up. I get to inspire people to take action. By adapting, it's helped me to grow as a human being. That was so brilliant what Tom was talking about. I've adapted my practice, so I'm making sales on the phone, I'm making sales on Zoom, but I'm also finding ways to make sales in person. And again, the key is so many people in our country desperately need us. It's the greatest time ever to do what we do. And I'm so excited that I finally understand it the way I wish I would have 30 years ago. And it just, I hope when everybody watches me speak, they see how much I love what I do and how much joy and pleasure and excitement it gives me. And it's helping me to stay young. It's helping me to enjoy my life every day. And I can't tell you how exciting it is to be an insurance agent in 2020.
Thank you, Van. Anybody else want to comment, Tom?
Yeah, I'll say this. I mean, I went through a transformation, but I was really good at hawking product and designing it and all that stuff, and I was great. And it was the realization, that was true. I was 54 years old, and the first time I began to understand, it was my own family, okay? I never made the connection of what that $100,000 would have been 1952. And all of a sudden, you see, it's not about the math, okay? It's about the consequences of the decisions that people make. And it's not about the money that my mother would have had. It would have been the different thing. She probably would have lived, she had a hard life. She had to live a few more years later. All of the aggravation, being alone in the 50s, okay? Having to go out and find a job after she was raised a certain way. All of those things that happened, and you know, it's there. So I think also to some extent, and I'm glad that Van brought that up. You know, I'm 69 years old. I'd be going out of my mind if I was just sitting there retiring. You know, I can't wait until I retire, you know, and then I'll be there. Well, if you're miserable now, what the hell do you think you'll be when you're 70? The same miserable person that you are now. That's the point. And so I think that you got to begin to force yourself to begin thinking about the impact that you have on others. The fact that, you know, as I said, you know, there's no one on their deathbed who calls up and says, call my broker because she beat the S&P by 2 basis points, okay? But pay a death claim or pay medical bills or stuff like that. And that's got to be part of it, because sooner or later you get worn down with the rejection that you get. There's got to be a bigger purpose. And I found that the people that are really successful stop talking about the money, just like Van said, and they start talking more about the impact, the other stuff that's out there. Okay. And that's, and that's something that's there. People want intangibles. They don't buy a product. They buy, they buy security. They buy peace of mind. They buy status. All of those other things. And so that's part and parcel of you down the road. So I know starting out, it's hard. You got to do stuff, but I'll tell you, it just opens yourself up. Most of the people, one of the things I'm amazed at, if I explained in January what we were going to go through, a lot of people would say, I'm out of this business. For the most part, I've bumped into people who it's not as bad as they thought. They've adapted to it, and some of them are even doing better than they ever did before. So it's just remarkable how we've been able to adapt to this thing. This, I think, we'll look back and say, boy, by changing this, I think it's one of the best things that happened. And as you get older, you want to still be vibrant and make something happen. Don't sit there and retire you go crazy.
Thank you, Joe. We're getting caught up on time here. We have some questions. We're going to open up Bruce Porter's line now from earlier. I know, Bruce, you have a question. Bruce, unmute yourself. If you can. Okay,
he's not responding.
He's not responding. Okay, not a problem. We'll move on. Does anyone have experience working with association groups? Any tips for opening them up?
I mean, I've spoken at many different associations. They all have meetings and they all need a speaker. And so, try to be that speaker or bring in a speaker. You could bring in a Van or a Joe or a me or somebody, but you could be that speaker. But tell them what you're going to focus on. You're not going to try to sell, you don't want to sell product there. You want to really sell yourself. You want to show them that, that things that they don't know. So go in there with a powerful, just short, normally they only give you 15, 20, 25 minutes, however long they give you, make it powerful, not trying to sell any product. Just this is what I do, or this is a thing about Social Security, about taxation or something. Give them something that really makes them think, and then your phone will start ringing off the hook.
No, I agree with Tom. It's a value added thing. I mean, one of the great things to talk about is just the idea of Social Security and delaying it. I know that because Tom knows this. I was doing this in 2004 and everyone thought I was crazy. And it's the idea of giving them some information. That's because we set up this thing at MetLife where everybody, remember, Corrado, everyone turned 62 and we sent out a letter and said, I want to talk to you about Social Security and, what have you. And so it's a non-invasive thing. So come up with topics that's of interest to them. That's not product specific, because this is about relationships. It's not about your product knowledge. And what happens is they're able to check you out, see you. And those are good things to talk at, especially to, put yourself there. Think of generic topics that people would have interest in.
Thanks, Joe.
Corrado, if I may add one thing.
Sure, go ahead, Danny.
I just want to advocate to everybody. You see the tremendous panelists we have, these gentlemen, the knowledge is unprecedented. But the thing that is inspiring is their passion. Look at the passion. All three gentlemen, the passion is there. They care more about others than they do about themselves. And that's what I want to advocate to everybody. If you embrace that passion, you could never do a wrong thing with the people that put their trust and confidence in you.
Thanks, Danny. So we got time for two more questions, and then we'll do our wrap up. So please hang on to it to the end as I share some important information. So we have a question here for Tom. Tom, can you simplify mortality credits when speaking to a client?
Yeah, so I mean, I've got a simple, I have slides that I do this, but you just use this example. There were 5 90-year-old ladies who went on vacation every year. One year, one lady said, hey, let's each put $100 in this box. We'll tape up the box, and next year when we go on vacation, we'll bring the box with us. And those of us who are still alive, we'll open the box and we'll split the money. They said, Helen, that is a great idea. So you got 5 90-year-old ladies, they each put $100 in the box. That's $500. They taped up the box. What do you think happened the next year? They forgot where they put the box. No, unfortunately, one lady's died. So now 4 ladies open up the box. There's $500. They each get $125. Now, that was a 25% rate of return in 12 months. I got two questions to ask you. How much of that money was invested in the stock market? Zero. What interest rate did it earn? Zero. How they get paid 25% with no money in the market or no interest rate is because they got paid mortality credits. So ladies look at this, they look at their brokerage account, they said, hey, this is a pretty good deal. I think we ought to put it all back in the box, tape it back up, and do it again. So they decided to let it ride. The next year, one more lady died. Now 3 ladies open up the box, there's $500. They each get $167. That was a 67% return in 2 years. No money in the market, no interest rate. Why? Because they got paid mortality credits. Now, some of your clients are going to say, yeah, but I don't want my money to disappear when I die. Do they have to have the money disappear when they die? No, the check could continue to their spouse. It could continue to their son or their daughter or their grandson. And so that's when you, but that's a simple way of explaining mortality credits. It's extra money from the risk pool the older you are and the longer you live.
You know, let me just throw one in, back to what we talked about, Corrado. The reason I did the Social Security thing was I was trying to train people on immediate annuities, because everyone knows they have Social Security, and then they think it's magic. How can they afford to pay? You know, when you think about it, if you go from 62 to 70, it's 76% more. So how does that happen? So, you know, so that's why I think Tom's explanation is so good. But set the premise for, by the way, with Social Security, I mean, that's what I used it was. That was the edge to get people to start thinking about immediate annuities and how that works. So then they think it's a black box. Then it's just the idea, look, the actuaries know how many people are going to die. They just don't know who.
Right.
Oh, there's one, I think it's in Jersey. It's called Brooklyn Life. They know who's going to die. You know the joke, right?
And how they're going to die.
And how they're going to die. Yeah, right.
Well, listen, I think I have an answer to that as well, but I do it in a storytelling way.
Okay.
The customer, I give an example of another customer that I have that we came across. And I say, look, they had $200,000. It's in 6-month CDs. It's earning 0.2%. They're earning $400 a year. And I said, because the insurance industry has mortality credits, I can take 100,000 of the 200,000, go to any insurance company in America, and they will pay you at 65 years old around $6,000 a year every year for the rest of your life. Now, the problem with that is if you die after one payment, insurance company keeps the money, but that's why I didn't ask you for the whole 200,000. I take the other 100,000 and I buy a 200,000 face amount life insurance policy. And now, if you live for 30 years, we're going to pay you $180,000 over that 30 years in a zero interest rate environment. And then I stop and I look at them and I say, can I ask you something? If I put $100,000 into a 200,000 face amount life insurance policy and I don't touch it for 30 years, is there a possibility it might grow? And everybody says yes. And I said, well, let's assume it didn't grow. So 200,000 face amount plus 180,000 of the annuity paid me. In a zero interest rate environment, we paid you 380,000 and you only gave us 200,000 bucks. And then I say, if that's all there was, you should buy this right now, but that isn't all there is, because my plan doesn't have to go through probate. My plan's incontestable and private. My plan can be controlled from the grave. My plan has creditor and predator protection. And my plan has Medicaid versatility. It can be converted from a lump sum into an income stream under spousal empowerment rules, and I don't have to spend the asset down. And then I stop and look at them and I say, can I ask you something? Is there anything else in the world that you know of that can do what I just described? That's mortality credits. We should be going to every person in America that has a CD, even if they only have 20,000 in a CD. You put 10,000 in a immediate annuity and 10,000 in a life insurance policy, and you can increase their income that they're receiving. And Tom's right. The interest rates are going to stay low for a long time. Jerome Powell has said he's going to do everything in his power to keep them low. And I read an article from the Bank of Canada, and they said they believe interest rates will stay below 1% for the decade and below 3.5% until 2050. And so again, you would be able to provide people additional income. And what did both Tom and Joe say? Really listen to them. They said wealth is measured by guaranteed income, not by how much money you have. And you can provide that guaranteed income.
Thank you, Van. So one last question here, and then we'll wrap up. If a single person retires at age 65, should they still wait to take Social Security if it means they will have to use their own money to live on?
I'll take it. I would say yes, because life expectancy right now in America for a 65-year-old couple, I know we're talking a single person, but a 65-year-old couple right now is age 93. 50% of all 65-year-old couples will have somebody live to be 93. 25% of those couples will have somebody live to be 97. And when you plug that type of longevity risk into a Social Security calculator, which I would say the single person should do, but plug in some longevity in there, it would become apparent that they would be better off using some of their own money from 65 to 70. We call that an income bridge, and then taking the higher amount for the rest of their life. But again, I don't know how much money they have. I don't know their personal situation. That's a general recommendation. I'm sure there's many things that would be, exceptions to that rule.
I would say that if they can, they should. That was the whole point. When I was doing this in 04, everyone thought you should take Social Security as early as possible because, well, first of all, a lot of people, we were younger then, right? But because it'll go away. Social Security is not going away.
Not going to go away.
And if you can and you make some adjustments, you should wait because it's more.
And Joe, I think you taught me more is better than less. I remember
That's right.
that.
We did that. We did the research on that. Yeah, they want more. Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, all I could say is a big wow. This has been absolutely incredible. And I echo Danny's comments as well. You felt the passion. The passion is there. And thank you for everything that you guys have done and continue to do for our industry. It's been absolutely amazing. You brought your energy today. Thank you again for everything and for, interacting in this insight and, insightful Q&A this afternoon. I'm sure I could speak on behalf of everyone on this call and NAIFA. Thank you for everything that you guys have done. I appreciate that. Also, thank you again to all of our sponsors of this event. This wouldn't have been possible without any of you. But before we jump off the call, we want to briefly mention a few key questions, updates, reminders regarding your CE opportunity. Number one, after this presentation, be expecting correspondence from our people at Jackson National. They will be sending you all the information you need via email in order to successfully complete your 24 CE credits. So a reminder again, you have 180 days to complete your self-study to earn your 24 hours, which includes also 3 ethics as well. Number 2, RSVP for the NAIFA National Belong event. That is today, if you haven't already done so. This is a member-only event, starts today from 7:30 to 9. We will add the link to register if you haven't done so or to RSVP on the chat. Number 3, check out our relaunched NAIFA New Jersey website if you haven't already, newjersey.naifa.org. This wouldn't have been possible without our generous website sponsors. Thank you again to all of our website sponsors that are listed, that will come up shortly on the slide. Number 4, if you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out to our executive team at info@naifa.org. They're happy to assist you. We'll add that also on the chat. Lastly, but not final, please take the survey. You'll be getting a follow-up email from us asking you to give us your feedback. Please take a few moments to fill that out and get your comments to us. We'd love to hear from you, especially when it comes time to 2021 planning. We always want to make these better each and every year. Finally, hope you got value out of today and not just showed up here for the 24 CEs. I'd like to thank our NAIFA New Jersey committee, who was responsible and very instrumental in putting this event together. I would also like to extend our deepest gratitude to the NAIFA staff and leadership team in assisting us with all technology and making sure our event runs as smoothly as possible. Lastly, but not certainly least, I want to wish all of you and your families a very happy and healthy Thanksgiving and holiday season. Wishing you all a strong year-end close. As we say here at NAIFA, together we can take on anything. It's been an honor, a privilege, and a pleasure to serve as your 2020 NAIFA New Jersey president. Be well, everyone, and be safe. God bless.